All right, we want to switch gears and finish with something different today. And I got this idea from Cam Inman. Cam Inman covers the 49ers for the San Jose Mercury News. He's been covering them for 15 years, just like me, although he's been in the newspaper industry for a long time. And he teaches a class at San Jose State on journalism. And he invited me to speak or answer questions. So I did yesterday. It was a Zoom call. I answered his students' questions for about 45 minutes. It was a lot of fun. And they had all kind of questions on, like, what would you do if you were our age trying to break into the industry now? And I thought that's a great topic. So that's been on my mind. And I thought me and my dad could sort of address how we would get started if we were 22 or younger and wanted to be sports writers.
Okay. I would start by saying if I were 22, I wouldn't do it the way Lowell did it when he was in his 20s. What I did, you have to understand, I was a freelance writer. I didn't have a job until I was 30, almost 34. I was a freelance writer. I contributed to Sports Illustrated, and I was a freelance film and drama critic at what the time was the Palo Alto Times, which is really was a wonderful newspaper. What I did was I contacted a lot of pretty famous sports writers in the Bay Area, invited them to lunch, and asked, how would I get ahead? And they gave me tips on how to approach Sports Illustrated. Leonard Coppett did that. He was with the New York Times. And all of that sort of thing, how to approach the Chronicle. I wouldn't advise that now because newspaper sports sections are not really hiring a lot of people. And newspapers, no bulletin here, are declining. The sports departments are very small. There are very few jobs. Eventually, I don't know when, there won't be any physical newspapers. It'll all be online because it'll be a lot cheaper. So I don't think anyone entering sports writing now should want to be on a newspaper or want to be a writer.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. The way I look at it is you got to get that credential, though. Mm-hmm. It's like you got to do two things. You got to get a credential and you have to build your own platform. And they're different, but they work together. So what I did to get a credential was you and I started a blog when I was in college. So when I graduated, I had clips and I took certain people out to lunch or just met in their office at NBC Sports Bay Area, which was Comcast back then, Oakland A's Magazine, the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Hey, this is what I've written. Could I be a stringer for you? Could I write an article for you? Could I be a freelancer for you? And eventually you'll get some yeses. And then you can keep adding those clips to your resume and it makes you seem more professional. And you eventually get credentials and you go to places and you have experience in locker rooms. So that's something you should do. You should build up your clips in your resume so that you can meet people, take them out, and maybe get your foot in the door that way. But at the same time, to make yourself more employable or desirable to these places that give out credentials, you need to have your own platform. So if you want to cover the Warriors, if you want to cover the Niners, the whatever team, and you're 22, you just start covering them. You start a YouTube channel, you start a Facebook page, you start a Twitter, you get in the conversation, you follow all your favorite writers and YouTube people that you respect. They'll probably reach, I mean, you can get to know these people. Look at how I've gotten to know all the people I work with. I mean, you can work with these people. You just get into the fabric of the coverage of your team at 22 and develop your voice that way. So by the time you're 30, you have a significant following and experience. That's what I would do.
Let's say you can't get a credential at first, but you start, let's do Warriors, okay? Because it's neutral. It's not 49ers. And we know that the head of PR, Raymond Ritter, is the greatest guy in the world and always wants to encourage media people. Iggy, what if you started your own YouTube channel and these other things, Facebook, I don't know what, Twitter, whatever they are. And eventually you send an email or a phone call to Raymond. It's not hard to get his phone number or his email saying, here's a sample of what I do. I concentrate on the Warriors. I have this many followers. May I have a credential? Do you think that would be a way to go?
it would be interesting, and I think you'd have differing success depending on the team. Maybe in 5 years, every team would say yes to someone like that. The Niners would say no. The Warriors might say yes. The San Francisco Giants might say yes. So it's definitely worth trying. And I think one thing to keep in mind, I'm stressing the importance of getting a credential. You don't necessarily need a credential. You may not want a credential. You can develop a huge YouTube following, a huge social media following, talking about a team with absolutely zero access to it. And you can make good money that way. Now, for me, I'd like to have access if I can get it. But again, if it's hard to get it, some of these teams don't want to give away access. The Niners are like that. It's really hard to get a credential for the 49ers. And you know what? That shouldn't deter you.
Oh, that's a great point. And we've talked about this before. When you're starting out journalist, and however you want to define journalist, the most important quality is not talent, it's perseverance. I'm going to say that again. The most important quality is not talent, it's perseverance. A lot of people who may be more talented than you will drop out because at first you're going to hear a lot of no. There's no room. We don't want you. And a lot of talented people, we become discouraged and go to another line of work. It's the people who don't hear no. When I was starting, I got no's, but I never heard it. Or if I did, you're wrong. I deserve a yes. And I was persistent until the luck came my way, but I made the luck.
Also, I think a lot of people are nervous about jumping into this, putting your opinions out in public as a 22-year-old or whatever age you are, as a newbie to the scene, and having people say, "Who the hell are you? Who do you think you are to have this opinion? You're wrong. You're stupid. You're nobody." I don't think people like the getting off the ground portion of being a sports writer. Like, it took me at least 10 years to get traction, and I was over at the Press Democrat trying to make, write thoughtful / provocative columns. And a lot of times people would read it and be like, "Oh, here's Grant Lowell Cohn's son trying to make a name for himself. This guy has no chops." You get a lot of that early on. And that's why you want to start early and persevere through all that. Because by the time you're 30, it's like, oh, actually, I've been doing this for 8 years. And people do respect what I have to say. Funny thing, things change over time.
Yeah. And I think, again, Iggy, it's a different world. I may be wrong. But if I were starting, let's say, covering a team or with a YouTube channel, etc., I would advise you not to be a fan. I would advise you to tell the truth as you see it.
Yeah.
Iggy, now, there are some who are fans, and some of them do well. But it makes me ill, want to vomit. I want people to be honest and even brutally honest, as opposed to, let's say, the Warriors. Again, I'm not going to the Niners. Whatever the Warriors do is great. Whatever, Kuminga is the next Michael Jordan. I wouldn't spend a minute with a influencer like that.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a lie. I know it's not true.
Prize Picks will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for playing. Use promo code Cohn, COHN, and download the app now. And there are a lot of fans that can tell the truth. Jesse Naylor, Ryan Hensley, a lot of guys who root for the team can also tell the truth. If you are a up-and-coming journalist in journalism school, you don't have to go to whatever market and be the fan of that team while you tell it like it is. You can also say, "I'm not a fan of this team. I'm just covering the team. I'm not even from this market, but I want to cover it the best that I can. And I'm going to be covering it every day with a lot of passion. But if they win, if they lose, doesn't change how I do my job."
And for you people starting out, I would have one other bit of advice. Let's say you get a credential with the Warriors and you go on a Wednesday during the day and there's media access and they sit on these big stools. Well, I haven't been to the new place, Curry and Kerr. I would say your first 2 times, don't ask a question. And what I would say you should pay more attention to is the media, not Curry or Kerr, because they've said these things a million times. See how the media asks questions.
Mm-hmm.
See how they get information they need.
Mm-hmm.
Have humility. Mm-hmm. And once you get, oh, that's very interesting the way so-and-so asked that question. I hadn't thought of that. I can do that myself. I think the learning process is with your colleagues, not with the athletes or coaches.
Yeah, because whether you went to journalism school or not, there's going to be a whole learning curve of things you need to do to be a pro that these pros have that you don't, that you need to learn. And I didn't go to journalism school. I grew up around it. Either way, there's going to be all these things that you don't know, and you have to be perceptive and pick up on them, or otherwise you'll won't be as good.
Yeah, I didn't go to journalism school either, Iggy, but we taught ourselves.
Yeah. It is
We
something you
learned.
can teach yourself, but it is something you have to teach yourself because you won't know this when you start. You have
I
to.
learned
Yeah.
from the best. I learned from at the Chronicle from Ira Miller how to cover a football team, and I learned from Glenn Schwartz at the Examiner how to cover baseball. I mean, he's the two best, and I shut up and I listened to them, and then eventually I felt empowered, and I would ask different kinds of questions, and I was more confrontational, I think, than Glenn. No one was more confrontational than Ira. He was off the chart beyond me, but I could become more bold once I was on solid ground.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good tutorial how we would do it.
Yeah. Was this the best show we ever did?
It was the best show we ever did. We have a few more super chats and we'll get out of here. Crazy Rod says no more Tang, but more Tungus. Please.
I love it.
Yeah, they just got rid of Tungus from the game plan immediately. Michael Caldwell, $5. Thank you, Michael. Neil says, hey, Papa Cohn, how has your faith shaped your philosophy? Questions during interviews when you covered the team and general debates with others.
My faith. Hold on. You mean my Jew being a Jew boy?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me do the best. This is a really good question. So, and I want to answer it the best I can. I grew up in a Jewish home, but we weren't all that religious. I mean, we celebrated Rosh Hashanah, and we observed Yom Kippur, and we had a Passover Seder, and I went to an Orthodox synagogue and all that. But more than that, I was brought up with a Jewish way of thinking, like the Talmud. I was brought up to question things. Why should I believe this?
Mhm.
Why, if this person says this, how do I know it's true? And do I agree or disagree, and what? I was brought up in a tradition of skepticism and healthy questioning, but also listening. And I do think that helped me as a sports writer. And among those attributes was I am a good listener. I don't need people to agree with me or to hear me, especially in interviews. I would be very quiet and just ask leading questions in the fewest word possible. And I would sincerely let the person know, Joe Montana, Steve Young, I am really listening to you.
Yeah, he's really good at that. Michael Caldwell says, you and your dad rock, bro.
Well,
Thank
I
you,
used
Michael.
to rock in the 1950s.
Joseph Ernberg says, should the Niners draft a true wide receiver one next draft? They need an offensive line.
Yeah, they have enough of these in and out wide receivers. Here's the thing, Iggy. They do need an offensive line. Are they going to get an offensive line?
I wouldn't bet on it.
I wouldn't bet on it.
Cyber says, Max said post-game he can't wait to do it again next week. Do you think he knows the truth about Purdy's injury?
He may not know. I'm going to tell you something very interesting. I doubt he knows.
Yeah.
Why would Purdy tell him? What would Purdy gain by telling him? And here's another thing. Kyle may not know.
Right.
The only one who really knows is Purdy. And again, I'm going to come back to Brian Sabian when he was the general manager of the Giants, and he was the greatest. He won 3 World Series. I once asked him, we used to talk a lot. I really enjoyed Brian. And I said, it was about a pitcher, and I honestly forget the name of the pitcher. I said, Brian, do you think so-and-so is injured? He goes, Lowell, I'm the last person to ask. He said, do you think a player is going to come up to me and say, Brian, I'm really injured? He said, it's not in their self-interest. They wanted me to believe they're healthy and they're earning their contract and they get another one. So he says, I have no idea of the health of my players. I have a feeling it could be that way with Lynch and Shanahan.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's why I think week 4 was so weird, him playing that game. I almost felt like the Niners were like, you're good. And Brock's like, Okay, we'll see. And now, like, we're not playing that game anymore. I'll tell you when I'm good, but I don't know. But yeah, there could be something there. West Coast Jay says, do you find it commendable if a fan is capable of covering a team with the same honesty as you fellas, or is it more respectable to cover a team without being a fan?
Iggy and I may differ on this. I think if you cover a team with the honesty that Iggy does, or Ira Miller did, or I did, you're not a fan. I think that eliminates being a fan. But Iggy, you would say that Jesse and Ryan are fans, and they cover it honestly. I would say to the extent that they cover it honestly, they're not fans at those moments.
I would say that too. But if it makes them feel better to believe that they're still fans, I wouldn't take their fandom away from them. But I
Sure.
don't think they're fans. I wouldn't consider them fans. But they consider themselves fans, and that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is if you're a fan of the Steelers and you want to cover the Steelers and you sincerely want them to do well, but you're also able to accurately praise and criticize them, then God love you. Go for it.
Iggy, if you're a fan of the Steelers and you get a credential within a
That's
week,
over. It's over. Once you get the credential, it's over. That's the thing. That's the last thing you want. If you actually get the credential, that whole like, I'm a fan who keeps it, it's over. You're not a fan anymore. It's over.
The first player who tells you to go F yourself, you're not a fan anymore.
Also, if you want to be respected at all by your colleagues in the media, you're not a fan anymore.
Iggy, remember the time when I was still working and that kid came into the press room?
Yeah.
And he started saying he got autographs
from LaMichael James.
And we were sitting, you and I and Mayoko, and there were some others.
Yeah.
And what did I do?
It's like, well, first of all, that's like against the rules. That like violates your credential. You can't ask for autographs. And what did you say? You said, who the fuck are you? What did you say?
Who the fuck are you? This is not professional. And then he stuck his hand out and he wanted to shake my hand. I said, get your hand away from me. I won't shake your hand.
Yeah.
I don't approve of you. That's what I said. And everybody said that. Everybody sat there real quiet,
and was like, thank you, because we don't.
Get out of here.
Fuck out of here.
You got an autograph.
I'm glad we ended with that one. If you want to be a sports writer and you get the credential and you want people to respect you, can't be a fan anymore. Because if you are a fan in those media rooms, you know what people will call you? A fucking fan.
A fucking fan. And I've heard this is interesting to end this way. I have heard so many times someone say to me, I don't like this guy, he's just a fucking fan. And this is media criticizing media, and everybody knows who the fans are.
Yeah, you're just a fucking fan.
Just a fucking fan.
Just
the worst. Fan. The worst. There are two worst things you can do in a press box. One is to be a fucking fan and root, and the other is to sneak in a look at someone's laptop and see what they're writing, and want to maybe use their idea. And you know who the peakers are, and whenever they're around, you put your screen down.
Or you make it dim. Brian, my brother, your son, says, don't you think you could have tremendous interest in a team without being a quote unquote fan? This is a good question. I love this question because to me, we both want the 49ers. Like, we expect the 49ers to do well. We hold them to a high standard. It bothers us when they fall short of it, but that doesn't mean that we're fans.
Right. We like excellence.
Yes.
We like excellence. We like to see it. By the way, Brian Strauss, my oldest, we had dinner last night at the Wolf on Piedmont. He and I on the Piedmont Avenue in Oakland, and it was one of the most wonderful dinners of my life. I love Brian.
I love Brian too, and I do think I find the Niners to be tremendously interesting. I think about them every day. I probably think about the Niners more than most fans of the team, but I'm not a fan of the team. So what's the definition of I'm fanatical about my analysis of the team, but I'm not a fan. And I find them like I talk about the Niners a lot. Like I find them as interesting as, more interesting than probably politics.
I understand. Yes, I understand that. You do think about them a lot, and you talk about them a lot. And it's interesting, Iggy. I ask you because I'm not there anymore. What is so and so like? What is so and so like? Here's the thing. I I'd like to know what Kittle is like. And I prefer that you don't answer. I see that there's two Kittles. There's the public Kittle, who is fun loving, good natured, and honest. Honest. Like the stuff he said about Salah and Mac Jones. Honest. I think there is a more fundamental Kittle who brings this public Kittle out, like almost like a character.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this other Kittle who's more strategic,
Mm-hmm.
he knows how people perceive him and wants to be perceived that way, but is more cunning and strategic. Now, the other Kittle, who no one ever sees, and I'm only saying on faith, I believe it, is still probably a very nice guy, but he's a lot shrewder and cunning than the one we see. Does that resonate at all?
It absolutely does. And I think there's another guy on the team that's just like him in a different way. Fred Warner.
Oh, tell me.
Fred Warner has this whole persona. He's the ultimate leader. He's got all the energy in the world. Like, is that him? Or is that a persona that he created to be the best middle linebacker he could be? It seems like both he and Kittle created these personas that they felt were necessary to be a Hall of Fame football player. And it worked for them. But what is Kittle really like if you run into him at the airport? I know what Warner's really like if you run into him at the airport. And he's not chest bumping you and giving you high fives. He's asking you, like, where you going? And he's telling you that he lost his wallet. Like, I think that they're both... there's like public version, private version.
Okay, I got one more question, and then we should end it. Do you think the deep down Warner likes you, Grant Cohn?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Do you think the deep down Kittle likes you?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think
he
so
might
either.
respect me or like enjoy my questions sometimes, but he's best friends with Kyle Juszczyk. So I would have to say no.
That's where I was going. I think he'll always act politely to you. He'll always act professionally to you, but my guess is he doesn't like you. And that's fair enough because he gets over it to be professional and to be a good guy. So I admire that, but my guess is he doesn't like you.
I'd love to know if Fred Warner and George Kittle like each other. I get the feeling that they're so similar and they're both like alphas in the locker room that there may be a little bit of a rivalry. And I keep seeing, like, whenever someone asks Kittle about Warner these days, he almost rolls his eyes. He's like, oh, yeah, Fred, I saw him on the Jumbotron. God, this guy, he wants so much attention. It's almost like he's teasing his brother or something, but it feels like there's like a kernel of truth to it. And I feel like Kittle thinks that Warner is like, starving for attention. And I think that Warner probably feels that Kittle's that way. I mean, Kittle, you go on WrestleMania, man. Like, you're the same exact way.
Kittle really likes attention, Iggy.
Yes, he does.
He loves it. And I think he performs better when he gets attention. So I'm not putting it down. He's a superstar. He has a big ego. That's okay. But he really likes attention. And
as someone
Iggy,
who likes attention, I recognize other people who like attention, and that's Fred and George.
I think, during games, the camera often goes to Kittle on the sideline. And I think he's always sort of aware that they may be looking at him. He's always doing his hair, you know what I mean? And making faces, he's determined. Yeah, I think his agent probably told him, be aware of the camera at all times.
Who gets the most face time on the sideline for the Niners during games when they're healthy? Kittle and Warner.
Yeah.
Kyle to a degree. But those guys way more than the quarterbacks.
Oh, absolutely. Every once in a while, you get a shot now of Purdy standing there.
How's he looking standing there? Stoic.
Oh, boy, stoic. May I add something?
Please.
Stoic, but pissed.
Pissed. This is not the way this was supposed to go.
Yeah, I would have to say pissed, Iggy. I'm sorry.
Fair. Larry T says, Lowell, in a movie, who would you want to play you? Henry Winkler or Larry David?
Woody Allen.
There you go. Grant would be Andy Samberg. Andy Samberg's 10 years older than me, but sure, we could do that. We got one more. Hold on. We got two more. Fish and Chip says, don't believe your lion eyes, Shanahan offense.
Hi, Fish and Chips.
Ilu Tube says, didn't Kittle buy you sneakers? He bought everyone sneakers in the beat, and we gave him the Niver Award. Very smart guy. We can be bought.
Tell him what the Niver Award is.
So every year there's awards for the players. There's the Bill Walsh Award, and there's another award. But one is for professionalism and availability with the media. Gary Niver was a beat writer covering the Niners who passed away, and he was considered the sweetest, nicest, most professional guy.
Wonderful.
So he was, in honor of him, they named the award after him, and Kittle won it last year. Trent Williams has won it in the past. It's a big award. I vote on it. It's the one I get to vote on.
Gary Niver was a dear, dear friend of mine, and I wish that I were a half as nice as him. Everybody liked him. And Iggy, I'm going to tell you something. He was Catholic, and when he died, they had a service for him at a Catholic church in San Mateo. He was at the San Mateo Times when it existed, I think. Anyway, I want to tell you who came to that. Well, Ira and Miller and I, we were sitting there. Joe Montana came. Bill Walsh came. Bob McKittrick came.
Wow.
And they spoke. Now, I don't think if I had died early, Joe Montana was coming to the synagogue to say what a great guy Lowell was. But it was so significant, Iggy, that these people came, sat quietly, and paid homage to Gary Niver.
Fish and Chip says, Lowell, get your Jerry Rice jersey out soon. Big 80. If you don't know, my dad is turning 80 years old a week from Saturday. So if you want to show him some love, why don't you go on Amazon or Barnes & Noble and buy his latest book, Brooklyn Jew. It's essentially his memoir. It's essentially the best thing he's ever written, which is saying something because Gloves Off was fucking good. But this is better. And it's available right now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, Brooklyn Jew. If you send it to me, P.O. Box 13111 in Oakland, California, I will send it to my dad. He'll give you a little autograph and send it back if you have some return postage. So send it to my P.O. Box. Support.
Tell him the zip code.
I forget.
Yeah.
I should probably get you the zip code. Just DM me. I'll get it for you. Sorry.
Okay. It's on Mountain Boulevard in Oakland, that post office.
Yeah.
And I got to say one other thing. There was a young gentleman who wanted that address and that he would buy a book and send it to the P.O. Box. Iggy, I'm really bad on the internet, and I think I deleted it. So if you're watching, please don't think that I blew you off. I'm an idiot. If you write to me again, lowellcohn@gmail.com, I will get all the information to you, and I apologize.
Yeah. Dad, this was not only our best show ever, but our longest show ever. And it's been a pleasure.
Really?
I love you.
I love you. I'm a little tired from it now.
Well, we had to teach people how to become sports writers in 2025, and I think we did a good job.
Okay. I love you, Iggy. I'll talk to you later.
Love you too, Dad. See you guys.